Jonathan should be to do three things. Number one, we need NYPD back on this campus or bring in the National Guard. Number two, no masks on campus. This isn't Fallujah, this is Morningside Heights. And number three, the students who behave in this way need to be suspended immediately.
There you have it, Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the Anti-Defamation League, calling for the National Guard to squash student protests at Columbia. Now, unfortunately, he also went on to defame the protesters as the head of the Anti-Defamation League by basically lumping them all together and saying the following. Make no mistake, these protests have nothing to do with self-determination for Palestinians. This is about sanitizing Hamas and encouraging terror right here, right now in New York City. It should be unacceptable. Now, as we showed you on this program just yesterday, there are definitely examples of people who are saying disgusting, deplorable things. There are people who have said things or chanted things that seem to be in favor of Hamas. But the vast majority of the protesters, including the student groups that have organized these protests, have not supported those statements, have condemned those statements, and are very clear about what their mission is. It is not anti-Semitic. It is in regard to the conduct that Israel is carrying out in the Gaza Strip, which has killed tens of thousands of people, Palestinians who are trapped in that region, in that small enclave.
Yeah, so first of all, ADL is complicated. It's done some terrific work in the past, and not just protecting Jewish Americans, but protecting Muslim Americans, et cetera, including Jonathan Greenblatt. Having said that, he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs on this one. The National Guard to shut down free speech on campus. By the way, right wing, where are you at? And I know a lot of you are there, but this is the most, like the biggest case of cancel culture I have ever seen in my entire life. You dare to disagree with a foreign government, you will be arrested on campus.
It's crazy.
So I'm gonna show you guys, not to our knowledge, not a single student has been arrested for anything related to anti-Semitism at all. This whole thing's a giant manufactured distraction based on absolutely, like not absolutely nothing. As we showed you, there are a couple of disturbing videos, but out of thousands and thousands of protests on college campuses, you found two sets of randos. One were college students, the others weren't even college students.
Yeah.
And nothing that got out of hand to the point where there was an assault or anything like that and somebody had to be arrested for. Calling the National Guard, but you're gonna see a lot of Republican senators are joining him.
Yes.
And the second dirty trick is guys like Jonah Goldberg going on CNN today and saying, no, these are not peace protesters. These are pro-terrorists.
Oh my God.
Come on, man. I mean, the 1990s called, they want their talking points back. This is horse crap that no one's buying anymore. I mean, maybe your buddies on TV all high five over, yeah, we called all the Palestinians terrorists. We called everyone in favor of peace terrorists, right? But nobody else is buying your nonsense propaganda. Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
Yeah, look, this is crazy. If and when there are people who are specifically harassing Jewish students, making them to feel uncomfortable, assaulting anyone, they should immediately be arrested. I have no love for those people, okay? They're total wreckers, they're counterproductive, and they should suffer consequences for anything that they do that could cause harm or is causing harm to Jewish students. So let's get that out of the way. But to make blanket statements like this about all of the student protesters, to basically refer to them as terrorists, is anti-American. It goes against what our values as Americans are supposed to be. And so you should create a situation in which people who want to demonstrate peacefully have the ability to do so, while those who are causing problems, who are inciting violence, who might be assaulting others, those people should be arrested and should suffer the consequences. But we're not having that nuanced conversation. We're having a conversation of completely shutting this down with the use of the National Guard. And as you mentioned, Cenk, there are other figures Republican senators in particular who are in favor of using the National Guard to squash these protests, namely Senator Josh Hawley and Senator Tom Cotton. Now let's start with Cotton, who seems to have an affinity of using the National Guard against demonstrators who are marching for something he disagrees with. Cotton blamed Democrats for the protests in a social media post Monday morning, writing that the radical anti-Israel protesters have always been part of the Democratic Party's base. So really using this for political purposes, for campaigning purposes. And he did take it a step farther, saying that the nascent pogroms at Columbia.
Are you serious? Pogroms? Yeah. For saying that, hey, Colombia should divest from Israel.
Yep.
What kind of lunatic says this?
Is that not insulting to, like, throughout history, the Jewish people who have been victimized? Okay, is that not insulting to them?
Are you kidding me? There's a lot of the protesters are Jewish themselves, because this isn't about Jews versus Muslims. This is about, is this foreign government doing something wrong? Should we back it or should we not back it? So there's a lot of Jewish Americans on the side of the Palestinians saying we should not be backing Israel on this. And I bet you some of their family members went through pogroms in the past, because it's nearly unavoidable in the Jewish community because they've been so abused throughout history. And this clown is using it for some sort of rhetorical point to shut down free speech in America. And why? The right wing and the Republicans all pretended that they were big free speech champions, right? And now all of a sudden, the minute you criticize Israel, they'll go, how dare you? Cancel them all, cancel. In fact, arrest them, because they're pro-terrorists and they're doing pogroms because they dared to disagree with Israel. Insanity. The good news is, Anna sent me the tweet. I looked at it as part of the story for Hawley. Oh my God, everyone in his mentions, all right wingers, no, this is dumb. That's not true.
Right.
Not buying this. You're sending in the National Guard against speech?
Right.
This is not a right-wing opinion.
And of course, both Cotton and Hawley are asking or demanding that Biden call for the National Guard to squash these protests. And if you're wondering if the president has the authority to do so, he would have the authority to do it. Although I don't think using the National Guard troops to squash student protesters would bode so well for Biden's reelection chances. But nonetheless, under the Insurrection Act, a president can federalize the National Guard if a state requests so, to enforce a federal law or to protect civil rights. Now, Cotton also seems to have a fetish with sicking National Guard troops against protesters. If you can recall, there was a huge brouhaha when he penned an op-ed for the New York Times where he called for the National Guard to be used against BLM protesters. But let's move over to Josh Hawley and what he had to say. In a tweet, he wrote, Eisenhower sent the 101st to Little Rock. It's time for Biden to call out the National Guard at our universities to protect Jewish Americans. And one final thing I'll say about this is, it's not just that the student protesters are protesting what is being carried out in Gaza. They have a very specific demand, and that demand at Columbia is that Columbia no longer do business with companies that are tied to Israel. It's part of the divest movement. And the divest movement is something that our politicians do not take kindly to, and in fact have taken it upon themselves, both on a local level and a federal level, to attempt to pass legislation that punishes people who choose to be part of the divest movement. And I can't believe that it hasn't been challenged all the way to the Supreme Court at this point, because our ability to be part of a protest organization based on our political beliefs should be protected under the First Amendment. There were cases in Texas, for instance, where an educator did not have her contract renewed because she happened to be sympathetic to that movement. But there's something about that particular movement, Cenk, that makes people lose their minds to the point,
I know why.
To the point where they're willing to squash the rights of Americans in order to do away with the divest movement, to disempower it.
100%. So I'm now totally in agreement with the divestment movement. I don't think that it's even close anymore. So the reason why people are super triggered by that is because that's the one thing that can work. Because once you put economic pressure, even South Africa, whites had complete power and they chose to become a minority in that country and lose not all of their power, but an enormous chunk of their power, the great majority of their power, because the boycott movement affected their economic interests. So the reason why they're super mad about BDS, and anyone that's in the establishment immediately goes, anti-Semitic. And you're like, okay, why? And they're like, that's economic, that could hurt Israel. Yeah, that you didn't say that, you said nothing that proves that it's anti-Semitic. You're just proving our point that this is all about protecting Israel. And guys, I'm sorry, but this is literal. There's only one thing that you could say in America that'll get you arrested for your opinion, and that's opposing the Israeli government. So that is literal in the case of these protests. And in the case of the laws that Florida and other states have passed, you won't get arrested for it, but the government will punish you by not giving you a contract or taking your contract away if you dare to disagree, not with our government, but with the Israeli government. I literally have never seen that. The only other thing I've seen that's close is the anti-protest laws, also in Florida and other places, where if you protest like oil companies or other corporations, people are allowed to run you over. Okay, so this is total insanity. Now, the last thing is so important because no one has been arrested for anti-Semitism. I want to be clear about that. Like there's no physical act, they blocked the way of a Jewish student or they attacked a Jewish student or anything like that, none. All of their arrests are because they have protested Israel too much. But I'm saying that very literally, guys, because the protests are for protesting too long in a certain area or in the wrong area. These are all rules that they came up with recently. Colombia just said, hurry up and pass laws. They got new rules saying, that's it. If you protest too long or in the wrong place, we can drive you off of campus, suspend you and do all those things. And when did they do that? I mean, there's been protests in Colombia for decades. I mean, it is one of the hubs of protests. But the minute there was protests against Israel, all of a sudden new rules, and you're protesting Israel too long. You're now under arrest in America for protesting a foreign government too long. And did you get that sense at all from mainstream media? Because whenever I turn on cable news, they're like, anti-Semitism, the students are all against the Jews, I can't believe it. And they were arrested. It makes it sound like they were arrested for anti-Semitism. Well, that's not even remotely true. And so that's the state of America as we have it right now. And Trita Parsi, last thing, made a good point online. He said, look, not only is Netanyahu, the right-wing government of Israel, destroying their democracy, but now it's beginning to destroy our democracy. As both Republicans and ADL, which generally is a liberal organization, good organization, all of a sudden the left and right of the establishment have come together to say, there is one golden rule, you cannot protest Israel. If you do, you're gonna be in a world of trouble. And that is the least democratic thing you could do. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.